Warren Buffett is undoubtedly one of the most successful investors of all time, and he goes on to advise that if you truly want to become successful in life, there's one thing that you need to do, and that is to avoid losing money. But it's easier said than done. Throughout all my years of having to spend time in the insurance and the finance industries, I've realized one thing that people do, and that is they do not know what they have to do, more importantly, to protect their progress financially. And that is why most people feel like when it comes to their finances, they are just running on the treadmill, in that they are making all the right choices, but they are still not making any progress in life. And so one thing that you need to know is that insurance is a necessity if you truly want to build wealth or to sustain yourself in the future. And that is one thing that most people actually omit when it comes to financial planning. And so in today's video, I'll be sharing the 7 insurance policies that you need to have in order to protect your finances and your financial progress against any unforeseen circumstances or economic turmoil down the line. And so if you're new here, my name is Nana. I hold a master's degree in business finance. And on this channel, we discuss everything personal finance and personal development. But before we go on to identify the insurance policies that we need to own in order to protect our finances, there is a need for us to actually understand what insurance truly is. And so for the avoidance of doubt, insurance is a financial arrangement between an individual usually and a company, where the company actually agrees to come to the rescue of the individual upon the occurrence of any accident, damage or loss on the side of the individual. And so one thing that you need to know is that you can actually go about your life peacefully without having to worry about any financial turmoil that may subsequently happen in life just by having to own an insurance policy with a company. And so with the understanding of what insurance truly is, we go on to actually understand also what insurance is not. So most people come to the insurance companies more often to claim with the intention that they really want to profit from the loss or the accident. And that is human nature. You cannot blame them for it. But there's one thing that you need to know, that insurance operates or is based on the principle of indemnity, which simply says that they are legally required to actually reinstate you to a position or a financial position just before the occurrence of that accident or the loss. So simply put, insurance is not meant to make you rich. It wouldn't make you rich. It would only protect the financial progress that you've made in life. So for example, if you have a vehicle that is valued at $100,000, then you need to know that upon the occurrence of a loss, if you have a full comprehensive motor vehicle insurance, the insurance company is required by law to only indemnify you up to the tune of $100,000 and nothing but just that. And that is why most people go about life with the intention of the perception that insurers are actually fraudulent, in that they expect to actually profit from the occurrence of a loss. That is not the ultimate aim of insurance. And so having a fair understanding of what it truly is would actually help you subsequently to choose the right insurance policies and then protect your money more importantly. And so without further ado, we just move to the first insurance policy, and that is your health insurance. So most people go about life, especially young people, and that actually stems from several years of having to sell insurance and handling insurances for most multinational companies. One thing that most people do on the personal level is that anytime that you meet young people, they say that, oh, I don't need health insurance, I don't need life insurance, simply because they feel like they are young and they are several miles away from any fortuitous occurrence or any accident. As opposed to this, what you truly want to do is that you don't want to take the chances, because no one can actually foresee the future. And so you're better off having a life insurance or a health insurance, more importantly, which will subsequently indemnify you upon the occurrence of any accident or any life-threatening incidents in your life. This brings us to the second insurance policy, and that is auto insurance. So one of the key things that you need to know is that before you actually set out to use your vehicle, it is legally required to actually have insurance in place. And then one thing that you need to consider more importantly is to also ensure that you have the right form of insurance in place. Motor vehicle insurance is mainly meant to indemnify you, the insured, and then also any third-party property damage that stems from your actions, your negligence, or your inactions. So while using your vehicle, sometimes mistakes can happen, accidents do happen. You may run into someone else's car or someone else's property, or probably, touch wood, even knock someone down. That is a form of insurance that protects you against all these incidents, and that is why it is necessary for you to have them, because all these incidents that I've actually mentioned are actually weighty financially. It can actually set you back several years, and that is why it is necessary for you to actually go on to purchase comprehensive motor vehicle insurance to protect yourself and then more importantly, other people that may sustain damage or injury in the course of using your motor vehicle. This brings us to the third insurance policy, and that is homeowners or the renter's insurance policy. What that simply does is that it protects your content or your home generally against any fortuitous occurrence like flooding or fire. And that is one of the greatest things that you can actually have. Because for most people, their greatest assets are their homes. And so in order for you to protect your progress and to avoid having to incur additional costs as a result of you having to replace yourself or your family, there's one thing that you need to do. You need to find ways and means of buying insurance to cover your content and then more importantly, your house. This brings us to the fourth insurance policy, and that is your life insurance policy. So a life insurance policy is mainly meant to indemnify or to pay a stated sum to beneficiaries or people that survive you, in that your kids can actually benefit from this insurance company. Touch wood should you pass on. And for most households, there are several people in there that can actually come to the rescue of these kids, especially if you have family that you can actually fall on financially. But for most people out there also, it is very difficult for them to actually have any form of assistance in the form of family members coming financially to take care of their kids. And that is why it is necessary for you to actually have a life insurance policy. Because upon the occurrence of the insured peril, that is death in this case, you know that your kids are surely going to benefit and that their college tuition or anything that is necessary to actually steer them towards success in life is actually secured simply because you have life insurance policies in place. This brings us to the fifth insurance policy, and that is disability insurance. So for the avoidance of doubt, disability insurance is a form of insurance policy that is meant to provide some form of income for you should you sustain any injury or you become incapacitated subsequently and not able to execute or to work. So one of the key things that you need to have is disability insurance. For most people that I actually spoke to throughout my insurance life, there's one thing that they said: disability is several miles away from them. But for most people that actually subsequently benefited from this insurance policy, it was just a single incident that took them from being active and being up and running to just having to be disabled. And so that is one thing that you may consider, because in the course of having to execute or going about our daily activities, it is easier for you to actually come across any form of disability, which also threatens your ability to have some form of income coming in or working actively to earn at the end of the month. And that is where this insurance policy comes in to sustain you and to protect you financially. This brings us to the sixth and the most important of them all, and that is the umbrella insurance policy. So the purpose of the umbrella insurance policy is that in all these aforementioned policies, there's one thing: they have sometimes indemnifiable limits, in that there's a stated sum that you can actually receive upon the occurrence of a loss. But the umbrella insurance policy actually comes in to do one thing, in that it extends the limits or your benefits under most of these conditions. So for example, if you own a vehicle that is $100,000, once again, and the vehicle is totally written off as a result of an accident, the insurance policy is only meant to indemnify you up to the tune of $100,000. However, if you go back to the market and the value of that vehicle is actually soared to like $120,000, then your umbrella insurance policy will take care of the excess of $20,000. That would also help you to indemnify you or to put you in a financial position just before the occurrence of the loss. This brings us to the seventh and the last insurance policy, and that is your long-term care insurance policy. So for most old people, this insurance policy is actually meant to help you in that it takes care of your in-house or your assisted living cost if you're to grow old or you find yourself in a care home. So one of the key things that it actually does is that it takes the burden also of your family or your pensions, also thereby giving you the ability to also live freely and then ensure that your financial progress throughout your life of having to work a career is actually protected. And so these are the 7 most important insurance policies that, in my opinion, every single person needs to have in order to protect your progress financially and then build the life that you want to build. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you in the next video.